Hey guys. I always try to win an argument fair and square. I review evidence and present the most convincing points, but as I am sure you've discovered by now, even with the better argument, more eloquently delivered, it is extremely difficult to change someone's mind, particularly if they're emotionally motivated. After all, we're dealing with people who, confronted with real world evidence that conflicts with their lived reality, or whatever invented postmodernist garbage they've been taught by their lesbian professor at some crappy California college, would rather create a labyrinthian system of rationalization than simply adjust their worldview. The desire to virtue signal is stronger than I ever thought possible. I even mentioned in a video a few years back that once people see real world consequences, once they or their loved ones start to experience the dangers of multiculturalism, they'll change their tune. But that is not what has happened. When Molly Tibbetts was murdered senselessly by an illegal immigrant, we saw her brainwashed father praise the Hispanic community and their contribution to food culture. When Maria Laudenberger was brutally raped and murdered by an Afghan migrant, her father, an EU official devoted to multiculturalism, asked for donations for refugees from the attendees of her funeral. Of course, not every leftist is like this. I still believe that the typical reaction to having your daughter raped and murdered by an illegal or a refugee is to be out for blood, as it should be. If that happens to me, I want a pitchfork-wielding mob driving all illegals out of the community. You heard it here, folks. But it's becoming increasingly clear to me that those leftists that can be reasoned with, that are able to see the light, have already jumped ship, which really diminishes not only the ability, but the necessity of influencing this remaining dogmatic faction through argument. The left is already resorting to mob violence. We've all seen the Maxine Waters clip 500 times, so I won't play it here. Additionally, we've seen new lows with Kavanaugh and how gleefully the left will destroy the life of a good family man just to win, all the while believing that they're doing the moral thing. The time to reason with these people is over. I have learned a lot from Donald Trump. I used to think he was just petty, and maybe he is, but especially in light of his long-running treatment of Elizabeth Warren, I think he's just on a different, higher level of dealing with leftists than I am. He seems to have realized a long time ago that reason was not going to influence the remaining leftists that are clinging to their worldview in the face of overwhelming, negating evidence. So he takes a different approach. He mocks them into action. Then they become apoplectic very publicly, and before they know it, they're dying an undignifying death on the cold ground after being hoisted with their own petard. Through relentless mocking, he somehow got Elizabeth Warren to proudly show the world that she does, in fact, have minority status, being less than 1/1000th Native American. Well, I guess I belong on the res too, bitch. And the mainstream media, because they had so vehemently defended her, had to go down with the ship. That is Trump's brilliance, his ability through mocking these idiots with things we've all thought, time and again has been able to expose the left's hypocrisy. In this case, that in their quest for racial tolerance, they've gotten legitimate minorities to elevate a rich, old, white woman to the status of the most protected minority group in this country, even though this is clearly a farce.
In terms of the Elizabeth Warren, the attack on Warren, I believe that was actually about white anxieties among Donald Trump's base about who's white in America.
This should be a lesson for all of us. Mockery, particularly when based in truth, is a powerful tool to defeat the left. This is why memes are so effective, especially in dealing with heavy subject matter. Like Trump, they cut to the heart of an issue, merging current events with harsh truths and usually a touch of humor. This explains the Clinton campaign, the mainstream media, and the ADL's treatment of 4chan and Pepe the Frog. It's dangerous for the right to have this humorous cultural element that resonates with a younger audience begin to quite significantly influence the narrative. The left felt that the only way to fight memes' broad appeal is to shut it all down. But they don't really have to do that. If the left had retained any of their former edgy sense of humor, they could just engage in the meme war rather than try to censor those that expose leftist hypocrisy. And that might be the biggest way we can be influential and win against the left, by deploying our sense of humor. We all remember Ali Stuckey's hilarious fake interview with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which is an age-old method of satire used by countless comedians and was quite obviously not an attempt to give the impression that Stuckey was conducting this interview.
Do you have any knowledge whatsoever about how our political system works. Yikes. Does that make you a little bit nervous?
The left has such an eroded sense of humor that virtually the entire mainstream media missed the point and believed that Stuckey was trying to present this as a real interview. They branded it fake news. This is such a perfect example of conservatives employing mockery and using their sense of humor to undermine insane leftists. They're left with no recourse because they're incapable of processing the humor. It just scrambles their brains. They feel that they have no choice but to take to social media and defend themselves, displaying their woeful inability to take or even understand the joke. They read as unrelatable, defensive, and if they were smart, perceptive, or funny, the obvious reaction is to meme the hell out of Ali Stuckey, but they just can't do it. If they aren't being violent, we just have to treat liberals like the petulant children that they are. They need to be made to feel small through mockery, stupid through elevated humor, and when they persist, stamp their feet and become red in the face, their ideas need to be treated with apathy. So much of Antifa and the mainstream media's mania is dependent on the negative reactions they elicit from conservatives. I think Ted Koppel is absolutely right about this.
You would be lost without Donald Trump.
Well, that is what he says.
Ted, you know that's not true.
CNN's ratings would be in the toilet without Donald Trump. Is there a moment of the day when they are not focusing on Donald Trump or some intimately related subject? It is essentially, I know every once in a while.
CNN, MSNBC, and virtually the entire left are addicted to getting a reaction out of the right. Even worse, they cannot function without it. They would have to, God forbid, go back to actual journalism if they didn't have this anti-Trump narrative to obsess about. They don't have to be good journalists or affect change anymore because, like SNL and present-day comics, instead of actually being funny, they can just shit on Trump and revel in the ego-gratifying laughter. The mainstream media does the same thing with this 24/7 Trump hate porn. This is why this Trumpian I don't give a hoot attitude is so powerful. You want to say he's some orange loon with small hands, that he has a tiny dick. Want to even go spicier and say he sexually assaults women. He gets defensive sometimes, which I wish he wouldn't, but generally, I don't think that he really cares that much. Their mockery is just not as powerful as his mockery. They're just going balls to the wall, attacking him constantly, then trying to see which elements of their attacks resonate most with the general public. He, on the other hand, is strategic. 1% Biden, Pocahontas, Crooked Hillary, Leaking Diane, Low IQ Maxine. He really is quite good at this. Catchy, an element of humor, and most importantly, true. Like memes, these names catch on, spread, and lead people to investigate the claims he's making. It seems like apathy toward their claims, then relentless and hilarious mockery in a public forum, will do the trick with those on the left that can't be reasoned with. But this strategy will not be effective if you demonstrate vulnerability, which Trump does, as I mentioned before, and should try to avoid. It isn't that I have a problem with him showing humility. I have a problem with him being defensive. The left perceives this as a demonstration of guilt. Maybe we need to take a page from their book on this one. Innocent or guilty, maybe we shouldn't defend ourselves unless absolutely necessary. And we certainly shouldn't apologize. They aren't going to praise our principled behavior or humility. Instead, they will attack our vulnerability. It's like blood in the water for them. I do make an exception for someone like Kavanaugh, who is clearly innocent and has been put in a position where it's possible to exonerate himself to some degree with his defense, at least with a large percentage of the public. I wish it did not have to be this way. In a perfect world, we could fight every battle with reason and evidence and win, but the left has developed a complete disregard for the truth. You can win a debate in a public forum with a leftist and influence the audience, which is very important. But at this point, I'm not sure how effective a demonstration of even the clearest truths will be on the mind of someone who is emotionally motivated and has significant ego investment in their truth. I'm starting to think that maybe the best way to win is just to laugh in their faces. Thanks, folks, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
you.